Coming up on First at 4, some good news in the horse racing industry. What's behind a record low in deadly injuries on the track? Plus, House Republicans finish up a 3-day retreat in Orlando. More on the big policy priorities they are hoping to move on. Coming up.
Plus, we're watching showers return by midweek and beyond. The very latest coming up as First at 4 continues.
Mountain News First at 4 continues.
After some difficult years for the thoroughbred racing industry, new data indicates that racehorse fatalities are down by more than a third since 2009. The numbers were voluntarily reported to the Equine Injury Database, but another interesting point that was found was that deadly injuries have reached their lowest since those statistics have been kept. Kelsey Soto has more.
Dr. Stuart Brown has been an equine veterinarian for more than 3 decades and is now in charge of equine safety at Keeneland. In 2019, their course saw 9 fatalities, 5 of them on dirt. Last year, the track had 1 fatality to report over the 34 race day period.
Reaching the standards we hope to drive the number to 0. Working really, really hard together to share that information. And I think you see that some of the EID data that's there between participating tracks that share this kind of information versus ones that don't.
He says it's been a collaborative effort between vets, track maintenance, and working with other partners and organizations to improve the quality of care for the animal athletes.
Our track maintenance team works extremely hard and works with the group that's out of the University of Kentucky now that does surface testing for us to make sure that we're constantly testing the surface to make sure that it maintains that moisture content and the consistency.
Marty Irby is the executive director at Animal Wellness Action and has been fighting for their rights for years. He says he's pleased with the recent numbers released and is glad to see the industry begin to adopt safer standards and practices.
We're very, very encouraged. I think horse racing really has a bright future ahead of it if they maintain the course, if they stay on the right track, and if they continue to put the welfare and the health of the horse first.
That was Kelsey Soto reporting. Santa Anita, the track out in California, saw 25 deaths in 2016 through 126 race days. Last year, they recorded 4 deaths across 94 race days, their lowest number recorded in the last 13 years. Knott County officials recently received a notice from Lifeguard Ambulance Service that they would be ending their contract with the county, leaving 1 ambulance vehicle to serve the entire county. This news was revealed in last night's Knott County Fiscal Court meeting. Those with the fiscal court say there are several reasons Lifeguard is leaving the county, with costs being one of the contributors.
Well, they've had a couple meetings already, and they have met with the folks from Lifeguard to try to get a little longer time span for us to work this out. We've reached out to a couple of the local counties for mutual aid agreements to whereby we can cover the county in the meantime.
We've also reached out to Lifeguard Ambulance Service for more information on this situation, but have not heard back yet. You can learn more about how the county is trying to deal with this coming up tonight at 6.
Clouds overspreading the region this evening as we continue to watch the chance of rain moving back into the mountains. Here's a look from up in southern Perry County and up on top of Buffalo Mountain. We'll get there. Low 60s this afternoon, low to mid 60s. As a matter of fact, most of us up there at this point, upper 50s and low 60s right now. The milder air really working on in. It's about where we should be for this time of year, and you see we're dry now, but here come some of those showers, and those will be moving into the region as we head through the nighttime hours tonight. So yes, after a few days of bringing the sensitive plants inside because of the issues with the hard freeze, bring them outside or send them back outside for a sip or 2 as we've got some of that rainfall on the way. And you see those showers starting to move in overnight. It's not going to be all at once. It's going to take a little bit to get that atmosphere a little bit more primed for rainfall, but it will be there eventually as we fall only into the 40s for the nighttime hours. Now, I'll have the details on when we see our return to even warmer weather. That's in a few minutes. Steve?
Evan, thank you. House Republicans are finishing up a 3-day retreat in Florida. WYMT Washington News Bureau reporter Peter Zampa is on the ground in Orlando with more on what they're coming away with.
It's the annual GOP policy retreat taking place here in Orlando. 3 days of closed-door meetings, readying their moves on big-ticket legislation back in Washington. But former President Donald Trump's legal troubles stealing the spotlight here in the Sunshine State.
And do you see the negative ads?
Over the weekend, the embattled former president speculating about his imminent arrest, calling for protests if it happens.
It wouldn't hurt if people showed up and said, hey, we support President Trump, but I think you'll see a protest at the ballot box in a couple of years.
A common refrain from Republicans at this retreat, protest with votes.
I do get concerned when I look out.
The drama eclipsing policy at times in Orlando as the party discusses its recently introduced energy package and strategy over a coming debt limit standoff that could lead to a default on U.S. debt.
Before we're going to agree to increase the debt limit, have to be more substantial, balanced budget amendments to the Constitution. We're talking about things that are structural that are going to avoid this from happening in the future.
Virginia Congressman Ben Cline says Republicans will release their budget in the coming weeks that outlines spending cuts, a GOP demand for agreeing to raise the debt limit. With Democrats still wielding power in the Senate and White House, it's unclear how much of the Republican agenda sees the light of day. Like H.R. 1, that massive energy package.
Democrats will have a tough time explaining why they don't support American energy, American resources, and American jobs.
Arkansas Congressman Bruce Westerman chairs the Natural Resources Committee. This bill calls for streamlining energy projects and unleashing American energy, as Republicans say. Democrats in the Senate call the bill a wish list for big oil, dead on arrival.
Whether this bill passes the Senate or not, we can control what we do in the House. We're going to pass a robust energy package. This is just step one.
Well, these lawmakers will continue to confront these issues when they return to Washington for the rest of the week. A number of hearings are scheduled on their proposed budget. Reporting in Orlando, Florida, I'm Peter Zampa.
As House Republicans wrap up their retreat in Florida, the Biden administration says they are still waiting on an official proposed federal budget from them. Earlier this month, President Biden unveiled his $6.9 trillion proposed budget, but House Republicans have not submitted a written proposal. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he is focusing on getting a balanced federal budget within 10 years without touching Social Security and Medicare. The White House agrees Medicare and Social Security should not be cut, but they do have questions about the logistics of McCarthy's plan.
Republicans have proposed massive tax breaks skewed to the wealthy and big corporations, and those tax cuts would add $3 trillion to the deficit. So it's just not clear how the math can possibly add up and how extreme MAGA Republicans can take steps to meet their goals and protect Americans' access to critical programs.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office found that to balance the federal budget within 10 years without touching Medicare and Social Security, 57% of the full budget would have to go. Add in discretionary defense and some veterans programs, and 86% of the rest of the budget would have to be cut.